Today I'm going to talk about Vesper, a new Helderburg, but I'm going to talk about inspiration, where it all started, at least where it started for me with Helderburg. So, surprise, British iconic Bentley flying spur. And if you know me, you know that I've been inspired by Bentley for years. I've loved Bentleys. I've had Bentleys, I've enjoyed them, and I've justified them because I needed four-wheel steering to be able to drive through the snow of New York. But let's just talk about inspiration. And I've always felt like a Bentley was the gentleman's cruiser, the iconic and stoic gentleman's cruiser. And I feel like it's a gentleman's vehicle. And maybe it's because I like the performance, but what I like most about a Bentley, well, I don't know, the W12 is pretty sexy, but what I like most about a Bentley is the interior. And I'm sure that you've seen a lot of the inspiration of a Bentley. In fact, I have an interior that I refer to as my Mulliner interior, which is a diamond stitch, and you see that on a lot of Helderbergs. But I wanted to put the Bentley with Vesper because they are both identically the same exact color. And if you're going to have a custom Helderberg, why not match it to one of your favorite vehicles? And you've seen me do that with my Porsches, which is also another weakness for me. Dark Sapphire Blue is just a beautiful blue. And you have to ask yourself, is it black or is it blue? Well, in the sunlight, it's just a beautiful blue. And if you've watched a number of my videos, you know that when I talk about blue, I go, blue's cool. But I think I just wore myself out on blue many years ago, since my first vehicle was dark blue, very similar to the Dark Sapphire. But I do love blue when it comes to Dark Sapphire. And if you haven't seen Arvon, which is on Helderburg.com, you need to go see that. That's also a really beautiful blue. But let's talk about Vesper. Vesper is the newest Helderburg, and it's got quite the history behind it. So the gentleman that owned it was a Czech architect. So Lucas Varga was his name, and he bought this originally, well, back in the late 90s, basically, and he bought it as a vehicle to be able to restore his family cottage. His dad passed away. He got the cottage, which was a stone cottage, and he got a classic Land Rover Defender 110 to be able to haul the stones, be able to haul timber, because if you know, a classic Land Rover Defender in the rear is the ideal space for a piece of plywood or sheetrock, not piece, but sheetrock or plywood 4x8. It will fit in the rear of a 110 because it is a farm truck, it is a working truck, it's a working man's truck. But it's a Helderburg, which means we've given it that taste of luxury. And if we look closely at the interior, you'll see that it does have that Bentley-inspired Mulliner interior, which is a diamond stitch. And I think you're going to realize the similarities now that you've probably looked at a number of Helderbergs, and you see all of the billet aluminum work that we do inside, and that is inspired by Bentley, which is, of course, a British iconic classic vehicle. And I just felt like they're the ideal pairing. They just go together really well. I mean, this is your work vehicle, this is your vehicle around town, this is your vehicle when you're definitely making a statement. Not to say this is not a vehicle to make a statement, but it's a gentleman's statement. So this one is headed to Big Sky, Montana. And I know that the gentleman that we built this for is going to enjoy it. Not only is he going to enjoy this one, but he's going to enjoy the second one, because this is his second Helderburg, or however you want to pair it. But he has two Helderbergs. That's the point I'm trying to make. So let's dive a little deeper in the Vesper. Vesper, as I said, is going to be in Big Sky, Montana. That's where it's headed. And I just can't talk about the color enough. And as I've said many a times too, the pictures in the video simply do not do a Helderburg justice. You really need to see it in person. You need to be able to walk up to a Helderburg, and you're going to see things that you simply don't see on other classic Land Rover Defenders that have been restored. And things, for example, if you look at the paint right through the cracks here, where this part of the wing meets this part of the wing, you will clearly, I mean instantly clearly see that these two pieces were separated, that these two were not bolted together and then sprayed as one piece. So what happens is it's just pure perfection. And the same thing here. You will see that everything was disassembled and everything was painted individually. And I mean, and that's not rocket science. That's not that impressive. I mean, that just requires more work. That's all there is to it. But what is impressive is the depth of the paint. When you look at a Helderburg paint job, you will be in awe. And I am not saying this because, you know, Helderburg is my company. I'm saying this because that's what clients have told me throughout the world. And I mean, we have clients throughout the world, and that's what they're always talking about. They're talking about the fit, the finish, the depth of the paint, the clarity of the paint, and how it always looks wet. And then, of course, just the perfection. Because as you look at all the aluminum work here, you will see just pure perfection. You will be able to tell that these body panels are new, that these are not old body panels. And you'll also be able to tell that these body panels are thicker than what you would, thicker than the standard body panel, that it's a heavier gauge aluminum. And by the way, yes, the classic Land Rover Defender is all aluminum. And then when you look at the bonnet, the Puma bonnet here, and you see the louvers, and I just really wanted to point this out because you simply don't see this on any other restored classic Land Rover Defender. At least currently you don't. I mean, it could happen, it could change, but the louvers that are on the bonnet are hand cut. And I mean, I've definitely mentioned that they're not functional, they're cosmetic and all that, but I think it's important to really understand the craft that it takes to hand cut aluminum and put these louvers in with such precision that they are identically perfectly lined up. Everything about them is absolutely perfect. And as you go through a Helderberg, you can just continue to see all the fit, the finish, the lines, the paint, the depth. And if we're putting this amount of work and care into the paint, you can only imagine what type of care and passion that we're putting into the interior, into the suspension, into the engine. Because if you were to look under the bonnet of a Helderberg, which I'm not big on raising the hood, that's like performance specs and everything else, but you would just see the pure perfection of everything that happened, that the bulkhead, when you look under the bonnet, is the same exact color because everything was disassembled. So I just wanted to rant about that for a minute. But I just wanted to say, oh, it's a lot of nostalgia right here, because my first Bentley Continental GT was what really inspired me to say, you know what, I'm tired of buying other people's classic Land Rover Defender builds, and if I want it done correctly, I just simply have to do it myself. And that's how Helderberg was born.